Hello everyone. I'm not in my usual filming location because we have gone on our 4-week summer break at the school. But I wanted to make a video for you on different ways that you can work in aviation as a mechanic even without an A&P certificate. But before we get into that, I do have an announcement. We are so close to 500 subscribers, and I never actually did anything for 100 subscribers. So to celebrate, I'm going to be going live tomorrow, May 11th. That's Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if there's nothing on your calendar, come join us, hang out, have a drink or two, and probably just going to kill an hour or so on camera, talk to people. Feel free to jump in there, ask questions, tell me your experience, whatever it is. But I'm going to get into it, so stick around. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is that an A&P certificate authorizes you by the FAA to perform maintenance, preventative maintenance, rebuilding, and alterations, and approve the work for return to service. So do you have to have an A&P certificate to work on airplanes? Again, for those of you who don't know, that's an airframe and power plant certificate. The short answer is no. The most common way is to work at a 145 repair station. That's a FAR Part 145 repair station. FAR Part 145 is what maintenance organizations use. Well, they have to get approved by the FAA, of course, but it's what maintenance organizations use to approve their work for return to service. So can you work at a 145, a FAR Part 145 repair station without an airframe and power plant certificate? Of course you can. When you do, you go, let's say, we'll use Standard Aero. You got a job at Standard Aero. You do not have a power plant certificate or an airframe certificate. So they are going to put you through several weeks of training, at which point you will be given a repairman certificate, and you are now authorized to perform work at that repair station. Now, all repair stations have sort of a hierarchy, a pecking order. You have your mechanics, your basic level ground mechanics, and then you have lead mechanics. Then above leads, you have quality inspectors, you have project managers, all the way up the ladder. So before something is approved, it's usually signed off or looked at by several people up the line. Now, Standard Aero is a jet engine overhaul facility, but Boeing has locations all over the United States, Seattle, San Antonio, wherever, and those are also 145 repair stations where you would be doing more than just turbine engine overhaul. You would be doing structures maintenance, you would be doing line and base maintenance, whatever it is that repair facility needs. It could be C checks, could be A checks, B checks, I don't know, right? But you'll be trained as a repairman to do those repairs. Now, what happens when you leave? Well, it's great for experience. It's good that you worked there, but when you leave, you don't get to keep that repairman certificate. It gets terminated when your employment is terminated, and when you go to a new job, you're now going to have to go through all of the training again for that FAR Part 145 to receive a repairman certificate to continue doing work. And like I said, it's great for experience. If you've already been working 145s or whatever it is, when you go work somewhere else, you're going to have a little bit of a leg up on the competition. So repair stations can also do things like overhaul propellers. They can also overhaul magnetos or individual components. So not all repair stations are the same. You do need to understand that. The other way is general aviation. You can go work at just about any general aviation shop without an A&P, assuming you can get hired. So most of the time, your general aviation mechanic shops are going to want you to have an A&P because there is no approval from the FAA to issue repairman certificates to the mechanics. So they need the mechanics to have an airframe and power plant so they are approved and certified to return work to service. But it wasn't uncommon when I worked at flight schools and small general aviation repair facilities to have a guy or two guys that weren't A&Ps who did a lot of the groundwork or even maintenance. They were great mechanics. They just didn't have their airframe and power plant certificate. The problem is someone who does have an A&P has to supervise them doing the work, has to sign off the work they do, and so on and so forth. So it ends up costing the company a little bit more money because you work on something and you say, all right, I'm done. So then somebody has to supervise it. Somebody has to inspect it. And it's almost like paying 1.5 people for one person's work if they would have had a certificate. So, do you have to have an A&P certificate to work in aviation? No, you don't. However, I will always advocate for you to get your airframe and power plant certificate. Not just because I teach it, not just because I am an A&P holder and an IA holder, but because when it comes time to get a job and to transfer from place to place to place, it's going to be so much more beneficial for you to have that airframe and power plant certificate so that you're not having to go through those repairman certificate trainings over and over and over and over again every time you get a new job. Now, I am lying to you a little bit. Every repair station you're going to have to go through training when you get hired. If you get hired anywhere in aviation, sorry to break it to you, you're going to have to sit down for death by PowerPoint for a couple of weeks and go through all of the training for that company and get spooled up on what it is they're doing. Now, even your large air carriers, like FAR Part 121 air carriers, they still have in-house maintenance, and they have in-house maintenance crews. Most of the time, they require you to have an A&P, but there are positions where you might not have to have an airframe and power plant certificate. However, you might be restricted in the duties that you're allowed to perform just because you don't have that A&P. So, like, they may let you pull panels and reinstall panels, but you don't actually get to change hydraulic pumps. Or they might let you change filters and small sort of preventative maintenance items, small servicing items, but you might not get to do the bigger jobs. I hope this was helpful. If you are considering getting your airframe and power plant, go check out some of my other videos. I've done a whole series on how to get your A&P, what to study for an A&P, what qualifies you to get an A&P. So go check those videos out. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you enjoyed this one. Stick around for the live stream tomorrow. Again, that's May 11th at 6 p.m. We'll see you all in the next one. Like, subscribe, comment, and be easy.